Please help me welcome our speaker, the ridiculously delightful Christopher King. Chris is the principal consultant at CRK Learning and the former executive director of the Five Moments of Need Academy. We're so happy to have you with us today, and the session is all yours, sir.
All right, Casey, thank you so much. Can everybody hear me okay? All right. I assume that's a yes. Don't forget you've got down in the where is it? It's the bar, the whatever the bar is down at the bottom. You can give me thumbs up. I am going to do a little bit of interactive things. Like for instance, I've got a poll. We're going to start out with a poll. Um, and I would just like you to tell me a little bit about why you are here. So Casey has pulled up the poll here, and so feel free to select the reason. I only gave you one choice, so there's only one reason why you can be here today. And you'll note that it does not say because I paid you, because I already know the people that I paid to be here, so I don't need to hear from them. They're just here to beef up the crowd. Ha ha ha. That's not really true. All right, Casey, let's leave it open for another 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yes, Betty, and my hair is not an option here. All right. Okay, good. So some of you are looking for new L&D frameworks. This is excellent because we need some change in our business. Many of you are curious about how to align learning with the workflow. That's good. Practical tools for performance force design. That's good too. Just here to learn something new. I love that learning for the sake of learning is this is making sure that the cobbler's children have shoes. So good for you for doing that. And then exploring whether the 5 moments of need fits my organization. So there's a good mix of people out here, but mostly you're curious about learning something new, and maybe if it's got something to do with learning in the workflow, that's going to work. So I appreciate everybody's responses on that. All right, so then I will advance my slides. You know, why should you care about what I say? Really, I've been doing this for a long time, so I will date myself and say I got started teaching Windows 95. That was my first instructor gig. And so, yeah, there in the late 1900s, I got my start, which means that next year is the start of my 30th year in this business because, I started when I was 7. And I've been building workflow learning solutions since 2012. So I've got some experience doing this in the real world, not just talking about it. And I've done it in a variety of industries: aviation, in call centers, healthcare, insurance, federal governments, management consulting. So I've got to see how a lot of different places do things. Um, and so it has helped to broaden my understanding of how workflow learning can be applied in a variety of different settings. So we're going to talk about that today. Oh, and I do have to say, and I am a certified facilitator for Lego Serious Play. So that's my most fun side gig. So if anybody wants to do a facilitated session with Legos in your company, that's something that I'm happy to come talk to you about because that is super fun. All right, but that is not why we're here. This is also not why we're here, but I've started doing this with a lot of my presentations. This is a framework that folks over at Torrance Learning, Megan Torrance, have come up with to handle AI and to really kind of be upfront about what we're doing with AI. So this is their Wise at AI framework. And I have to tell you that some of the text and images in this presentation were structured or summarized with the help of ChatGPT. You might not be surprised by that. If you are not using ChatGPT, you need to start now because it is worth all of the hype. But it's also a lot of work. So get started now on that. All right, so now we're actually going to get into this. What I want to know from you is how many of you have seen a course launch that has had zero impact on the job? Raise of hands on that. Right? It is a sad truth of our business that we have all been there. We have all done that. Training is measured by attendance or completions traditionally. But if people return to work unchanged and not doing things differently, then that investment has failed. So what we need to do is change behavior on the job and to have an impact on that. And one of the ways we can do that is that we can make sure that we get the learning closer to the work, because ultimately more training does not mean better performance. I mean, these gaps aren't knowledge gaps, but they're application gaps. And our challenge is enabling performance, not delivering more content. We're none of us work in a place where we get to learn for the sake of learning. We are all in a place where we are teaching things because people need to perform on the job. And that's how we get measured. And if we're not doing things to change the way people perform on the job, then we're not doing our jobs. So I'll just throw it out there. But let me give you a story about why, an example of more training does not equal better performance. So I was working for a government agency, it doesn't have to be named, but this was a government agency that has places all over the United States. There was large and small facilities everywhere. There's a little pin on this map, and we were working with EEO. So it was an EEO course, and in many of those places, the facility was small enough that EEO was another duty as assigned. And so it was not something that people dealt with on a regular basis. And as you know, EEO can be very complex as far as the flow goes. But don't worry, this agency had webinars, they had e-learning, they had classroom training. They had binders with the SOPs in it. They had more binders that had job aids in it. They had binders with binders in it. This is a government agency, so they had plenty of binders, right? More binders. But what happened is ultimately somebody missed a deadline. They missed a deadline, and it caused an informal EEO complaint to become a formal EEO complaint. And the ultimate outcome was $1 million fine on this agency because of the EEO settlement on this. And so training would not have helped that. And this is where we have to recognize that what we do goes beyond just what we can control in the classroom. And so that's what I want to talk to you about today is how to think about the different moments of learning need. We're going to figure out how to match solutions to those moments of learning need. We're going to use what we call the critical impact of failure scale to prioritize our learning to make sure that we're managing risk in the organization. And then we're going to see how to apply an RWA, a rapid workflow analysis, to structure all of that. Okay, this is a working session. This isn't just theory. I've been doing this for many years, and this is how I do it. So I'm going to share with you how this all works. So first, let me talk to you about the 5 moments of need. Right. So think about a time you were stuck at work. What did you need right then? So in the chat, just drop in there. If you were stuck at work on something in the last 48 hours, what did you need to get past that thing that you were stuck on? Yeah, alignment, clarity, guidance, information, somebody to talk through, approval, perspective. Yes, data. Oh, some actual training. Okay, confidence. Okay, good. All of those, and coffee is always very important. All of those fall into the 5 moments of need. So let me tell you about those. We'll talk about how your particular need fell across these 5 moments. Right. So these are the 5 moments. So this is Conrad Gottfredson. It's his brainchild. This is a great framework for thinking about how to make sure that you're covering all of those moments when people need to learn something. So new is, what is this? How does it work? More is, how do I broaden my knowledge? Apply is, what do I do right now? Solve is, of course, something's broke. How do I fix it? And then change is, what's different and what must I do now? So the apply moment is the critical moment, because remember, we all get paid to do something and we help people do something better. That's our job. So your real needs fall across these. And for those of you who are saying, I needed training, or I needed to know more about something, that is those moments of new and more. So in those moments, that's traditional training. This is our wheelhouse. We know about how to do new and more. That's no big deal. for us in the L&D business. It's those other three moments, these apply, solve, and change moments. That's where we really kind of have to think about it and see if we're covering those moments, especially because apply is the premium moment. It is the premier time. It is when people have to shine. And if they need help, what are we doing? Normally, and over the years, we've called it many different things, but it's informal learning. Apply, solve, and change are those moments that happen outside of my classroom or outside of my e-learning module, and it's just not it's not something we have to worry about because it's informal learning, right? But not how we need to think about it, because in this moment, in this place where we are, where we all have to learn while we're doing things, we need to control those moments of apply, solve, and change, and we need to have influence over it so that can be assured that people are getting the right information, right? Whether you were talking about clarity, whether you were talking about guidance, whether you were talking about approval from superiors, those are those moments of apply and solve, right? And so how do we fit those in, and how do we make sure that that we're covering those moments where we don't normally think about them in the L&D business? So use this as a framework to think about how we want to make sure we've got coverage for all these different moments of need. And now let's see how we prioritize which of those moments deserve the training versus maybe just some performance support or a job aid. Okay, so when mistakes really matter, we're going to talk about the impact of failure here. So this is a scale that we use in the 5 moments world. It's called the critical impact of failure scale, and it operates under the idea that not all tasks carry the same risk. So think about, for instance, if you are resetting a password versus administering medication to a patient. Do those two tasks have the same level of risk? The answer is no, right? So it's not, that's not the case. It is not a matter of risk being the same on those. However, ADDIE and all those other ways that we've been designing training treat those two equally. So we have to spend time in the classroom talking about resetting passwords because that's one of the learning objectives. And that is taking away time from the time in the classroom where we can practice administering medication. And so we use this critical impact of failure scale to start taking a look at how we're going to prioritize these things. For in the 5 moments of need are new, more, apply, solve, and change. So when we think about the 7-point scale on critical impact of failures, what we want to do is we want to think about the task that we're performing and where does it land on this? Is it a 1? Is it minimal impact? Or is it a 7? Is it catastrophic impact? Or does it land somewhere in between? So for instance, if I were to learn yoga in a weekend, what's the worst thing that could happen? I could pull a muscle. You could see me in this unitard like this lady is wearing on the cover of this book, and that would be pretty traumatic, but ultimately it's easy to recover from. So learning yoga in a weekend is fairly low on the SIF scale. Very few things in there that can really cause lasting harm. On the other hand, learning to swim in a weekend, now that's something that if I were trying to do that by myself, I could seriously hurt myself. So this is where if I'm going to learn to swim, I'm going to want a qualified expert to guide me, coach me, give me tips, and make sure I'm being safe. And so these are the differences in the kinds of things that we're doing. And in the middle might be mountain biking. So it might be, if I could throw a chain if I don't understand how to shift, or worse, more significant of an impact, if I'm going downhill and I don't understand how to use the front brakes, I could go over the handlebars and maybe break a bone. So that's a moderate to significant impact. So we use the 7-point scale. We take each task or each learning objective and we rate it against that scale. So I've thrown the scale up at the top here. Let's do a quick activity. So in chat, what would you rate a task that is reset a system password? If a One on the SIF scale is a minimal impact, which means no big deal. It's easy to fix. And a 7 means um, your company goes out of business. You never work in this town again. Your name winds up on the front page of the New York Times, or a plane crashes. 1 to 7. Where do you think that is? Yeah, it's very one. Um, it's a minor inconvenience. It's easily fixed. If you're wrong, you can't proceed until you get it right. And the reason it's low impact is you can't access the system to break anything. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're stuck. You can't work until you remember your password or reset your password, but you can't break anything either. So it is a low impact, low risk if you can't set up your system password. How about this one? If a manager posts the wrong shift schedule, where do you think that would land on the scale? Is it a minimal impact, a moderate impact, a significant impact? Okay. All right, good. So numbers are coming up here, 3 to 5. Yeah, that's about right. I mean, if it's wrong, this could lead to understaffing. It could lead to overtime, missed SLAs. You could miss some deadlines. Definitely going to take a hit to morale from the workers that are having to work extra time because you didn't schedule it right. So it does have a bigger impact, more significant. Moderate to significant, maybe not really on the significant side. So I might not go all the way up to a 5 on this, but it's definitely a 3 or a 4. All right. And our last situation is I'm a maintenance technician and I have to reattach an engine cowling to an aircraft. Where does that land? Yeah. Yeah. Adam 9. Yes, this is important, especially if you're going to be on the aircraft, right? Because we do not want a PDA incident in the aviation industry. That's a parts departing aircraft incident. That can cause damage to the aircraft. It can injure people on the ground. It can become foreign object debris on the ground that can impact other aircraft. So yes, this becomes a very serious to catastrophic kind of task. So yeah, Trish, it's not PDA. It is parts departing aircraft. Um, so when we're thinking about this, we're thinking about where do we spend our time? Our classroom time is limited. We only have a certain number of hours with our students. So how do we spend our time in the classroom? And if we know we have tasks or learning objectives that have a high SIF rating, shouldn't we spend more time in class talking about that, practicing that, giving people a safe place to fail, maybe giving them a chance to practice some scenarios or simulations, especially if if we're talking about reattaching parts to aircraft, you want a qualified supervisor, trainer, coach, whatever, observing the learner doing the thing to make sure that that learner is doing it correctly and correcting any misperceptions or wrong behavior that's happening. Right. So, how do you make time in your classroom for that? How many of you have ever been handed a 9-pound binder by a subject matter expert and said, this is everything that needs to go into your 1 hour class? Right. This is how you tame that 9-pound binder. You use the SIF scale on this. So, when we talk about the SIF scale, we talk about 1 to 3. That's areas where we don't really need, if we have the proper support in the workflow, we don't really need to spend time in the classroom on it. And I know this may be a little bit of a mindset shift for you, but you do not have to cover everything in that 9-pound binder in class, especially if there's already a job aid or some other performance support tool that's out there with that information in there. And one of the things we teach in the 5 moments of need is how do I build a digital coach or a performance support tool that can underlie all of this? And then how do I target my training so that I'm actually spending time in the classroom doing the things that I can only do in the classroom? And so if we're talking about 1 to 3, that's the stuff we leave to the digital coach or the performance support tool. And this higher level stuff, that's what we do all of it with. We have the digital coach. All of it lives in the digital coach to begin with, but then we're going to reinforce that with training, with e-learning, with coaching, with hands-on stuff, chances to practice, exercises, simulations, whatever. The higher the SIF rating, the more time you need to spend making sure that your learners understand it, know it, and can do it well. Okay. So we've talked about the 5 moments of need as a framework to make sure that we're covering all of the thinking from formal to informal. We've talked about this critical impact of failure scale as a way to prioritize the learning. Now let's talk about how we can organize all of this, and we use a rapid workflow analysis. The reason we use a rapid workflow analysis is that it grounds the learning, the things that we're focused on, the content in the activities, in the work. And it's a little bit different than a job task analysis because the job task analysis, while it's still covering all the things you're doing at work, it does not differentiate between steps and tasks. And so, therefore, it gets way down in the weeds and it's hard to understand looking at a job task analysis. What do I need to train on? So that's where we use the SIF scales. That's where we use the 5 moments of need. And now I'm going to talk to you about this rapid workflow analysis. Okay. So this is simply listing tasks, analyzing steps, uh, creating the SIF ratings, and assigning the moments of need, and then designing the solution. So the first step is job tasks and supporting knowledge. It's a fast and collaborative conversation with your subject matter experts. And what you do is you identify job tasks. It's some of you may be very familiar with it. It's the old use sticky notes on a whiteboard and write down everything that needs to be done to accomplish this thing that we're talking about. And so you get all of your sticky notes together from your subject matter experts. You have to do this, then you have to do this, then you have to do this, then you have to do this. So then we take this cloud of tasks, and what we want to do is we want to organize it so that it becomes easier to comprehend what are we doing here. So we take this cloud of tasks and we organize it into business processes. And so that cloud of sticky notes becomes this more orderly, more organized workflow. And then from this workflow, we can create a workflow map that shows us how the work flows, what's the relationship between the tasks. And sometimes just visualizing the work in this way leads to real aha moments for the people that are doing the work or the people that are managing the work. I have been in an RWA session where the vice president of sales was sitting next to me at the table. We were going through all of these processes and we came up with this workflow map. And the guy leaned over to me and he said, I've never seen this before. I've never seen our work written out in a visual way like this. And that blew my mind because how can you be leading people, right? So, right, Amanda, it is process mapping. The unique take on this is that we are focused on processes and tasks rather than the whole thing. And that's where the strength on this comes from. So, when we're doing this live, we often use a virtual whiteboard. This is an actual RWA session. So, we use this is in Mural, not Miro, but Mural. And it's just we just had the subject matter experts brainstorm one thing that you need to do on each sticky note, and then we're talking with them, we're having conversations with them about, okay, well, where does this go and how does this relate to the other ones, and what's the order, and how do we need to make sure that we're organizing these things. And so you can see these sticky notes coming from a cloud into organized columns, which are the processes, and each of these sticky notes is a task. Inside of each of those tasks are a bunch of steps that need to be done to complete the task. But that's not what we're worried about in the rapid workflow analysis, because if we get down into the steps, we lose the rapid in rapid workflow analysis. All right, so we want to keep this tight. We want to get everything captured from the subject matter experts in terms of processes and tasks. We want to make sure we know the relationship between those tasks. And so we'll come out of this with a workflow map and with a list of tasks and processes. And then we also capture what we call supporting knowledge, which is the stuff you need to know or understand in order to do the work. And from there, we can build out a performance support tool that will comprehensively help somebody doing the workflow. So order starts to come together until clarity emerges in this process. So sitting down with people to do this, you get your subject matter experts there and they just start talking about what they do. It's really interesting. And it doesn't matter if you're dealing with um, you know, engineers or teachers or soldiers. it doesn't really matter because everybody likes to talk about what they do. And so you get your subject matter experts talking. What you do is you teach them a little bit about what a task is and what a step is and why to avoid steps and those kinds of things. But once you get it, you can see how this would work. So as you're doing this kind of work, you want to avoid some traps. So um, don't jump to courses is the first one here, right? So don't jump straight to that, right? So what we want to do is we want to ask some different questions. So instead of just saying, yes, we'll build you a course for that, ask this question instead. What job performance challenges are you trying to solve? Change that conversation that you're having with your stakeholders from, yes, I'm going to make you a course, to how can I help you improve performance? And if you do this enough times, your stakeholders are going to start looking at you differently. And it's going to lead to you getting better outcomes from your training interventions because you're actually going to be moving the needle in the on the job, moving the needle on the job. Uh, Ask these kind of questions. What kind of performance challenges are you trying to solve? Another trap to avoid is big bloated job aids. How many of you have seen a 20-page quick reference guide? I was just dealing with one of those last week. It was 38 pages, and they called it a quick reference guide, and I laughed out loud. So, right, Jose, one sheet job aid is sometimes the best thing that you can provide for people, right? That is performance support. Performance support at its essence can be boiled down to what's the checklist, right? So if I'm an experienced performer, a checklist is often all that I need to remind myself of the things that I need to do and maybe the order I need to do them in. If I'm somebody who is a infrequent performer, or it's my first time doing it, or I'm new to the organization or whatever, I'm probably going to need a little more information than what's in a standard checklist. And that's where our performance support tools come in, where we can start to build out the details around each step so that your performer has a chance to get that extra context or those extra nuances as they need to. So for bloated job aids, really one page per task, write verbs first, right? Use technical writing principles when you're writing your job aids. Make sure that it is action oriented, no passive voice, all of those good things that they teach you in technical writer school about how to write in a way that's going to make it so that people can perform using your writing. But keep those job aids to one page. Here's another thing that we do. We do it without thinking about it these days, and that's we measure attendance. So, what kind of seats are we filling in our classes? Right? Everybody's LMS helps them count that, doesn't it? But nobody's LMS helps them show how your learners are changing their behavior on the job and improving performance in their organization. That is what we need to be focused on, not seats. Gloria Geary was a woman. Well, she is a woman, and she's still alive. But in 1990, she wrote a book called "Electronic Performance Support Systems." So I've been following her for a long time, and she wrote an article for Training Magazine once that said, "Why don't we just weigh them?" She said, training metrics is such that we might as well just set up a cattle scale outside of the training room. We have each class step on the cattle scale. We'll weigh them, record the weight, and then every quarter we can report on the metric tonnage of training delivered, because that's the same quality of data that we're providing when we tell people how many people attended our training classes. So instead of counting seats, let's actually pick some business metrics. Whether it's time, whether it's quality, whether it's adoption, whether it's error rates. Those are the kind of business metrics that make a difference and show that you are actually making some changes on the job. So don't pick an L&D metric, pick a business metric instead. So thinking back to your own stuck moments now. Well, actually, let me hammer the measurement thing for a minute. So measuring where work lives, right? So it's not what training do you need, it's what's not working at work. And these kind of metrics are going to anchor to business outcomes and make us more effective in the job that we're doing. So faster resolution, fewer errors, safer work, happier customers. 3 questions that you can ask. I've already told you one. What job performance challenges are you trying to solve? But you can get to the metrics question, the measurements question with your stakeholders by asking them questions about their work. What job performance challenge keeps you up at night? What measurable outcomes would you like to see from these challenges or my intervention? What would you like to see coming out of it? How will a successful solution impact the business? If you don't know what the finish line is, you can't ever cross it. So if you can't show impact on business performance, then you are truly failing at at your job. And I'm sorry to say it that way, but the reality is we're in an era where L&D is under pressure, and we are worried about the kind of things that are going to replace us, AI. And what we need to do is we need to make sure that we're as relevant as ever. And the quickest way to being relevant is to start asking your stakeholders what you can do to help improve performance on the job. So I'm going to tell you that the 5 moments of need is one of the ways that we're going to focus on that. It is a way to bring that performance focus, and learning in the workflow is a way to make sure that your learners are giving people what they need to do. So you're giving your, I'm sorry, I should say that a different way. You're giving your learners what they need to improve their performance. Make sure that people know that that comes from you. Okay. All right. So here's my challenge for you over the next 30 days. Don't let this session just end as an idea. So pick one or more of these quick actions. I've talked about changing the conversation. Uh, even if you just do a short 15-minute chat with a stakeholder, that can shift the way they see training versus performance. My favorite story on this is Frank Nguyen was the CLO at Sears back in the early 2000s, and it was actually 2012. I was at a performance support conference where he was speaking. He was on a panel, and somebody asked him. He said, "Frank, you're the CLO of Sears. What do you do to convince people that they need a performance support tool instead of training?" And Frank said, "I don't. I just give them training." And the guy said, I'm confused by that. Can you tell me more? And Frank says, "It's easy. They come to me and they expect training because I'm the chief learning officer. So I don't try to convince them that this is a better solution for them, because they don't really care what kind of solution. They just want performance to change, and they want their people to behave in a different way. And so I will say, I'll give you training. I will build them a performance support tool that their performers can use on the job, and then I will give it to them and say, here's your training and here's how to use it." And they walk away happy about that because I gave them training. So I don't try to spend any time convincing them to change to this new thing called performance support. I just give them what they're expecting from me, and I give them the thing that I know that they need that will actually solve the problem. So change the conversation with your stakeholders. I'm not advocating that you that you lie to your stakeholders, but if you've got stakeholders that are convinced that you give them training, you can give them training regardless of what you call it. They think of it as training. We are the challenge that we have in the L&D business is that we're one of the only businesses around where everybody thinks they know what we do because they went to school for 12 years, right? Everybody has this preconceived notion of what learning is because of college, because of high school, because of elementary school. They all understand what learning is. They don't have the slightest clue about how adults learn and how it can be better. So one of our challenges is helping them kind of understand that. And one of the ways you can do this is change the conversation with them. So ask them 3 questions about performance, tell them you're going to give them training when they ask for it, and then give them performance support or workflow learning instead. Those are some ways that we can change this up. Okay, next thing, how can the critical impact of failure scale change the way you're focusing your training energy, right? Identify those tasks where failure hurts the most. And one of the things you can do is take one of your courses or modules or maybe even a curriculum, look at the learning objectives in that course module or curriculum, and run a SIF analysis on there. 1 through 7, sit down with your SMEs and say, okay, on a scale of 1 to 7, where does this land on the risk of failure? And so then once you've got those SIF ratings, you can do a reprioritization exercise on your, let's say your virtual instructor-led training or your ILT, right? So now I'm going to change up my agenda so that I'm making more room in the agenda for those high critical impact of failure ratings. And I'm going to kind of push aside the lower CIF ratings because I know that people can learn them on the job. If it's a 1, it's a CIF rating of 1, somebody can learn that by trial and error on the job, and it's not going to hurt anything. And, oh, by the way, that may be one of the best learning experiences they get because they're having to learn it, and failure is the best teacher. So there's one thing you can do. Your CIF scale helps a lot. So the project that I'm on right now, we are building out assessments so that you get a high stakes test at the end of the curriculum. And we have run the critical impact of failure ratings on all of the learning objectives. So which learning objectives do you think are going to be questions on the assessment? I can promise you it's not going to be reset your password. So take that CIF scale, use it, figure out how it can help you. Next, try a little mini workflow analysis, right? So a little mini RWA doesn't have to be formal. Just grab a whiteboard or a notepad and sketch out the steps to a workflow. And then show people and see if there's any insights that come from just looking at that workflow map. If you want to get ambitious, run that rapid workflow analysis where you sit down with the SMEs and you say, tell me everything that needs to get done. And you do the work of sorting and ordering those tasks, creating processes, and then creating a workflow map out of that. Okay. I was just able to give you a taste of this today, but one of the things that I'll leave you with is some next steps that you can take to learn more about this rapid workflow analysis. If you draw out that workflow map and you see where people get stuck, it can be an eye-opening experience for you and your stakeholders. And it may even uncover some gaps that are either in your learning or in the process. All right. Last of your choices for my 30-day challenge is, I promise you, if you sat down and looked at all 5 moments of need and you mapped out your learning against all 5 moments, you've got new and more covered. I promise you, you do. You are giving people lots of new and more content. But are you supporting them in the apply, solve, and change moments? Are those moments underserved? So when you start mapping this out, and you can do it at any level of your training, you can do it within a course, you can do it in a curriculum. What you want to do is just think about it. Am I covering new? Am I covering more? Am I covering apply? Am I covering solve? Am I covering change? Where are the weak points here? Where is it that you need to lean in more? If you're weak on apply, make more job aids. If you're weak on solve, beef up the help desk or ask the help desk to help you put out some more resources to help people. What kind of performance support can you do that gets the learning close to the work, as close as possible to the work, so that people can continue to work without having to stop work to go learn something? So this exercise can give you real aha moments about wasted effort. If you are building yet another new or more element in your curriculum, stop and think about that. You don't need more new or more. You need more apply, solve, and change. Okay. Even if you do just one of these things next month, you'll move from knowing about the 5 moments of need to practicing it. Okay. You can look up 5 moments of need online. You'll find lots of information about it. Here's some other things that you can do to broaden your knowledge. So moment of more. Right. So we're talking we're talking about joining the WLPA community. So this is the Workflow Learning and Performance Alliance. It's a community of practice. It's free to join. They have regular webinars and meetings. It's a community of practice of people that are building out performance support and building out workflow learning solutions. So that is a very easy way for you to get connected with other people who do this kind of work and learn from them. Next one is the 5 Moments Academy courses. So, as Casey mentioned at the beginning of this, I was the executive director of the 5 Moments of Need Academy, and I still am in very good standing with them. I am a practitioner, so I am a 5 Moments of Need designer, and so I've been one since 2017. They started it in 2016. So, so I was one of the first out of the gate, but then I taught the courses also. I can tell you the 5 Moments of Need Academy has several different flavors of courses. And I will tell you also that you will not ever get a better learning experience. It is comprehensive, it is deep, but you will come out of a 5 Moments of Need Academy course really knowing how to do them. And then finally, another easy thing, contact me if you need some help. I mean, this is higher commitment because now you're stuck with a conversation with me. But you can always reach out to me, connect with me on LinkedIn, drop me an email. My email address is in the footer of this, also on this slide. So, bottom line, less training, more performance. I want to thank everybody for this. I've left some time for Q&A. I don't know if there's questions to answer, but I'm happy to do that. Otherwise, I can give you a few minutes back on your day.
There
Casey,
are actually
you.
several questions queued up here for you to
All right.
answer. Corinne had a few, so you might have to scroll back in your presentation, but she
Okay.
missed the one of the first names you listed in one of your earlier slides, Conrad
Oh, Conrad
something.
Gottfredson, right? I don't think I actually put Con's name on here, um,
Okay.
but I will put it in the chat.
Perfect, perfect. And then she was also wondering about which business metrics are being used to evaluate communication performance.
Uh, Hang on a second. I'm writing a clever uh, 5 Moments of Need. Which business metric is best for? I'm sorry. Tell me again.
To which business metrics are being used to evaluate communication performance?
Oh, that's a great question, Corinne. I don't think I know the answer to that because I'm not doing a lot in the communication space right now. I mean, I'm communicating a lot, but I'm not measuring my performance. That's Casey's job. Um, I mean, in terms of communications, I think error rate. I think things like speed to proficiency. I think rework or defects are probably another thing that you could ping on. You know what I do these days when I want to know what business metrics are being used in a specific place, I ask ChatGPT about it because it does a pretty good job of broad questions like that.
Awesome. Okay, she had one more. Can you provide an example of a work performance tool that could be used in project management?
Work performance tool. So this question is about tracking people's work over time and how well they're completing tasks. Is that a correct statement? I just want to make sure I'm answering the right question. Corinne, if you want to just drop it in chat. Yeah, okay. We use ClickUp right now. So we create individual tasks in ClickUp, and then as people complete them, they mark them complete, and then we run the reports within ClickUp. So I would say that's a tool to help with performance management. Um, this is part of helping us understand how the work is being performed. And you can take the reports that you get out of a performance management tool like that and analyze them in a way to help to try to uncover gaps in training. So which tasks are taking longer than expected to be completed? That would be a target of opportunity for a workflow learning intervention. Because it's likely in those cases where it's taking longer than estimated to complete things that there's something broken with the process, or maybe the tools aren't right. It's not necessarily a thing that more training could help, but it's certainly something that you could have an impact on if you have some sort of workflow learning intervention in those cases.
Awesome. So the last question I have right now is a tough one from Andrew. He asks, what are some tangible examples of workflow learning you have developed? I see the
Mhm.
approach, but I'm not sure what the end products might look like besides a job aid or a CIF targeted training session.
Okay. The tool that the 5 Moments of Need team uses to build performance support tools. This is a performance support tool on performance support. Okay. So remember how I was talking about workflow maps? This is the workflow map for creating performance support tools right here. Enable is the acronym that they use, and analyze to design is the process where we actually are building a performance support tool. So if I click on the A, that gets me to this workflow map right here, which is a task level workflow map. And this becomes my checklist. Here are the things that I need to do, and you can see the relationship between these tasks. And if I want to do, so for instance, map the workflow, this is the RWA. So if I click here, then I'm going to get the steps for doing an RWA. And remember how I was talking about if you are a regular performer, a checklist is probably all you need. Here's my checklist for running a rapid workflow analysis. Okay. If I do this on a regular basis, this is probably all I need until I internalize this, and then I won't need it anymore. But if I'm new to it, or if it's been a while since I've done it, maybe I need a little more information. So what does it mean to identify tasks? And if I click here, then I can drill down into those details, those nuances, those extra things that help me complete the step, um, extra, sub steps, extra information about things to look out for, the gotchas. That's the stuff that goes into the detailed steps, right? So this is a tool that you can build in your own organization. Now, this is using an electronic performance support system platform. It's called Ask Delphi, and it's one of the 3 big platforms that do electronic performance support systems. But reality is, and these guys at Ask Delphi hate it when I say this, is if you have some sort of wiki-like tool, you can build a performance support tool, because really all you need is to be able to link to other things, and it helps if you can do this accordion content kind of thing. And then after that, it's all a matter of the design. Okay, so you can even use SharePoint. I mean, heck, I have built this performance support tool using PowerPoint. It was out of date as soon as I emailed it to everybody, but it was a performance support tool that would help people in the moment do the work that they needed to do. So Amanda, this is not something that's publicly available. This is what you get when you take the course on becoming a 5 Moments of Need designer. You'll get access to this. You can actually, I take that back. You can get a subscription to this tool. And if you want, that would be getting in touch with Apply Synergy. So everybody's asking for some links. So let me pop back to that page here, and let me go grab those links. See if I can just do it quickly this way. And then in chat, I will do this. Bang. Contact me. I'm just going to leave those tabs and things in there. So there's the link to join the WLPA. Oh, these didn't come in as links, did they?
They did. They
Oh, good.
did.
Excellent. Okay. Well, so you can always copy and paste those URLs, but those are my 3 challenges for you is, how are you going to keep learning? How are you going to keep this momentum up? I feel some energy from everybody, which is great. And I want you to continue to have that energy. So, but you have to sustain it. You have to add some more to the engine to keep the energy going. So deepen your learning about this as you're in a moment of learn more. So lean into that moment. And then you can get to the moment of apply where you're trying it on the job.